Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode number 21 of Ryan and Anna on Miami.
We're of legal age.
Finally. Not that it stopped us before.
Drinking age.
Anyways, I know. Here we are, episode 21. The Miami story continues. So this past week, I was actually on a national podcast called Housing Wire, and it was a continuation of the themes that were covered in the Inman event, which I found very interesting because they didn't speak with each other. They're not the same organization, but it was an echoing of the same themes that everyone is seeming to catch on now on a national level. And it's this pattern of wealth and talent migration into South Florida. So I had a fantastic podcast there. You can find it. It's on everything, Spotify, Apple iTunes, whatever it is. And we touched upon all the trends that are sending people here. And they had this, again, a national audience. And once it went live, they were supposed to email me a link when it went live, and they did, but it took them an hour or two. In that interim, I didn't know it was actually live. And all of a sudden, people started calling me. I swear. And they said, I just heard your podcast. And they're calling me from Georgia. I had a man with a very strange Russian accent call me from Georgia.
Oh, boy.
That was interesting.
Georgia or Georgia?
Georgia, they meant the state. But
okay.
He was very Russian. Anyway, so people started calling me, and they said, same feedback I got after Inman. They said, wow, all these things you said and quantified are things that I've been feeling and seeing. It's in the early days of this enormous shift of wealth and talent in our nation. Yeah. So it was a good corroboration of our ongoing Long Miami, Long America thesis.
We still need to get T-shirts for that, I think.
We do.
Long America, Long Miami.
Equals Long Miami.
Yeah, equals Long Miami.
I love that.
I'm going to get on Canva. We need to get like a cool Miami palm trees and
that'd be awesome.
And very cool stuff.
Yeah. That was just a great talk. And again, the feedback I got on the phone immediately when it was launched, then I emailed the producer and I said, I think you guys went live because people are calling me. And I did preview one data point because May closed out. And one theme I've been talking about is the scarcity of single family, how we cannot add inventory vertically like we can for other types of product. And especially Ryan will get into the Local Act later and how we can add housing inventory vertically. For single family, we cannot. And we're seeing this slight, I don't want to say divergence, but the single family home market is outperforming because the scarcity is so real. And we hit another all-time high for median pricing in May for single family homes. Condos are hovering off their high a little bit. It's normal. It's hovering. They didn't reach an all-time high. Single family did, and inventory at the lower price points keeps nosediving. For condos, it's not. Condos at lower price points are coming back in the market because of the law change next year.
Yeah.
Single family, no. And we had an interesting record. So I always like to look at outlier data. Past 2,000 a square foot, we had a 900% increase versus May of 2019.
900%?
Yep.
That is wild.
All-time high May transaction volume, despite overall losses in transaction volume.
And
exactly
that's year over year?
No, versus May 2019, pre-COVID.
Oh, okay.
It is up year over year, too. But looking at versus pre-COVID, it's huge. It's 10x.
So that reminds me, I have a very close friend of mine who bought a house last year or the year before. It was like a 1970s rancher in like Cutler Bay, Palmetto Bay. I think they got it for just over 500,000, like 600,000. Wow. They gutted it completely, and they put a lot of money into it. They did the windows and all of that. They just listed, because they need to upgrade to a larger home, they just listed it for 1.4 or 1.2.
Yeah, so appreciation plus the upgrade.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Another stat, again, this topic that I shared with the podcast was that if we look at tri-county data, because it's the same pattern through Palm Beach County, Broward, and Miami-Dade, you can't hide or find a separate you have this problem Miami-Dade, you can't go north and escape it, and that's the disappearance of lower price single family home inventory below $500,000 now. May versus May 2019, tri-county inventory is down, I think it was 88%.
Wow.
It's basically gone.
That's wild.
It is wild. It's one of those numbers you look at and I like triangulate and corroborate it in numerous ways because it looks so, not fake, but it's so drastic. You want to make sure that it's correct.
Yeah.
And it's really gone. Past $500,000 houses, it's gone. And then we can't add vertically, we know this, but in terms of land that's there, we can't even add inventory at those prices anymore because of land costs, construction costs, and what the market is demanding. So it's going the way of the dodo bird.
Dodo bird. I think I read recently that they found some dodo birds somewhere.
Really?
I don't know where.
If we can extract DNA, we can make them now. Wouldn't that be cool?
Jurassic Park style.
The movie didn't teach us a lesson.
What Jeff Goldblum said, just because we can, we no.
Just because we
could, doesn't mean we should, or something like that. He's a very famous quote.
What a party pooper.
Yeah, we were talking about this last week, about the condos and the new rule changes. And I was reading some more about it. There's some more stories, and it is interesting. Like, Miami-Dade has a huge dearth is dearth the right word? Or lack of condos that are for sale that are newer than 10 years. There's
Correct.
almost no inventory
Yep.
of condos that are 10 years and
Yep.
newer. There is like all the inventory that is 10 years and older, and a lot older.
Correct. Exactly
And
right.
like the bars were hilarious. It was like new inventory and old inventory.
Exactly right. And that's part of that bifurcation of the market that I was talking about on that podcast, is that we have the segments that are attractive to the wealth and talent migration, which tend to be new product. So there's great demand for new product. Luckily, we do have a pipeline. Miami is building.
Yeah.
And it's very much not an oversupply, because the existing inventory that is older and tends to be less expensive and cheaper on a per square foot basis is not attractive to the domestic migrants who are coming from New York.
It's also, you have to realize that even if these older units are an attractive price, no one is factoring in the assessments, the insurance, the blah, blah, blah that these older units are going
Future
to require.
headaches.
So it's like you're basically getting a discount on the upfront cost and then having to pay it later.
Yes, and the same holds for single family that is older, because they're built to lower elevations.
Okay.
So people think that they're buying an older single-family house, they're getting a lower price than a newer house, but they're built to a different standard, and the elevation of the house is different, and the insurance rates are going to be completely different.
Interesting. Yeah.
Same pattern.
Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about Live Local.
Tell us all what it is. This was actually a topic on that podcast, too, because this is a great program the state of Florida has. And I said the state of Florida is not afraid to build, and we have this wonderful thing called the Live Local Act.
Yeah.
And tell us what it is.
So Live Local is it's both complicated and simple. So what Live Local says is if you take a project and devote 40% of the available units to affordable, which in this case means the people cannot make any more than 120% of AMI. Is that what you call it?
Okay.
Average something income. Average median income. And for Miami-Dade, I think that's 72,000 or something like $70,000. Anyways, so if you take 40% of the units and make them AMI, you basically get to disregard all zoning things.
Local zoning provisions.
Local things, yeah. So it's not like you can avoid like safety and like whatever. You can just, it's the density. It comes down to the density.
So you can you can build as much FAR, I believe it is,
Yes.
as a project within a mile radius around you. There's some legislation trying to shrink that to half mile. I don't know if that's passed or not.
Yeah.
But it was written initially as within a mile radius of that project, you can match that FAR, even if it's within a different local jurisdiction with different zoning.
Yeah. And also it's the height too. You can build to the height.
Right to the height, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
An example of that, Wynwood. Wynwood has about 12-story limit, approximately. And that's why all the buildings there have been mid-rise. There is a company, a developer called Baz, I think that's what they're called.
Okay.
And I learned they made their money from plastic grocery bags.
Oh, wow. No?
Oh. Anyways, the lot they're trying to build on is in Wynwood on North Miami Ave. It's right after 20th Street, so just on the entrance of Wynwood. They had originally proposed a very Wynwood project, 12 stories, blah, blah, blah. But now, with the Live Local, they are proposing a 48-story complex.
Why not?
And just for reference, listen, I'm for this project. I think it's great. I'm loving the pettiness of this developer, and I think it's great. But that would be like, just for reference, that'd be like putting the Waldorf Astoria on North Beach in Miami Beach.
There's a town center in North Beach where they are building new things.
But I mean,
I hear you.
It's gonna have fabulous views.
Ryan is trying to say it's a little bit off scale from the rest of the neighborhood, just a little. Right?
It's like for example, the building's parking podium is going to be about the height of the current buildings in Wynwood.
They're just jealous.
Yeah, but the interesting thing is, I said this before. What developers are doing is they are proposing these crazy projects because they can.
The Clevelander did it. Yeah.
And then they're going to the jurisdictions and saying, we can build this without you being involved at all.
But instead of 48, we'll build 20.
Yes. So you better approve the 20 without any shenanigans.
Or we'll go back to 48 and put neon lights on it.
Exactly. So that is exactly what developers are doing. And some of these projects may actually be built. They may be.
Which is great.
Yes. I'll take it anyways.
It's fantastic.
And then there's another one, which I actually have up here. This is in West Little River. And West Little River is not like Little Haiti. This is it's like west of 95, far west. They want to build almost around 3,500 units in 7 towers, I think, or 6 towers. And right now, the land is literally like in the middle of a single-family neighborhood with 2-story buildings. and they're going to build like a little mini Brickell, like way west, and they can do it because there is obviously a 30-plus story building within 1 mile, and they can build if they want to. So
I feel like Live Local Act activates itself, because that project uses one that's off a certain distance radius, and then when it's completed, its existence pushes the radius further. Do you see? Because then another building that was further from the original, where they couldn't invoke Live Local, now can because of the new project.
I did read that it is written that it doesn't work that way.
Oh. I feel like it spawns Live Local projects.
The NIMBYs would be like, they would just die.
So it has to be a project that predates Live Local that you use as your...
I think there's like a certain date on it that says before X, Y, and Z date.
They thought of that.
Yes.
Frankly, I'm surprised that the legislators thought of that.
And that to me is something interesting, because this whole act is very progressive for Florida.
Very.
And it was signed with a pretty much overwhelming support in the Senate and the governor. It actually may be among the most progressive housing acts in the United States.
I can't think of something similar. I'm not an expert on this matter, but nothing similar has gotten the media attention or pops to my mind.
Yeah, California does something called the Builder's Remedy.
Okay.
Which basically says that, it's so California. It says if someone wants to build something and they have, I don't know, the rights or something, and a state or legislation blocks them, they can sue for lots of money to build it.
Wow.
Which is very California. So basically, NIMBYs cannot block it based on the city. But Florida is saying, please build it. Please build this. We'll support it. There also is another layer we need to talk about. So the way it works is there's the state stuff, all the way at the top from Tallahassee. Then you have the county and you have the city. And that's how the strata works of permitting and zoning. We have Live Local at the top. That says you have to be affordable. 40%, you get these benefits. Next layer down is Miami-Dade's rapid transit zoning. And basically, that says if you're within some sort of half mile or whatever of the Metro Mover, the Metro Rail, Tri-Rail, or Brightline, you can ignore the jurisdictions.
The parking requirements.
Parking requirements and the density.
Right.
For instance, the lot next door, where the Herald used to be, is a large lot. With rapid transit zoning, they could technically build like 8,000 units on that land. I don't think they're going to do that, but they could under rapid, and they could just tell the city to go pound sand.
Yep.
So you have to remember that is important to remember, because all those things override, and developers can take advantage of the Live Local and the rapid transit
together. Yep.
To add for some crazy dense projects.
I'm all for it. I think it's interesting.
Yeah.
Allows for creativity.
Yeah. And they can also buy rights from like neighboring properties and add to their density.
Like air rights, but not,
Yeah. Mello did that on their project they're doing by Publix over here in Edgewater.
Yeah.
They bought like 1,000 units to add to their lot next door. Because Publix doesn't have anything, it's just Publix.
Right.
So they bought 1,000 development units.
I love it.
Yeah.
Florida's not afraid to build.
Yeah.
And everyone's watching us. So it's good.
And speaking of everyone watching us, there has definitely been some articles, and I talked about this a lot, but it's definitely starting to heat up. We're building a lot. Rents have plateaued. There's been a couple of foreclosures and whatever, and it's all like normal.
Yeah.
It's all like normal things that happen.
Not dramatic, nothing that
crazy.
crazy.
Like buildings go to foreclosure, people go bankrupt. It's very normal.
Correct.
I think.
Yep.
And so now the stories that are coming out are those like small points. That's okay. The Gateway of Wynwood is going to foreclosure next week. And to me, that just says they did something wrong with the financing. Someone messed up.
Which happens.
Happens.
In every market.
But it's getting almost like national press now, because they're looking for any sort of chink
Yes.
in the armor.
Or they're like, the hurricane season will be bad. They're trying to create chinks before they're even there.
Yeah. So.
Negative Nancy's.
Yeah. I always send them to Anna on Instagram or Twitter, and I'm just like, something for your next.
My next topic of something, yeah.
your next topic. But there are interesting things, like we were talking last week about the condos and how that's coming up.
Soon.
It's January 1st, 2025.
Yep. Correct.
Yeah, and there's going to be a lot of people, I think, that are still going to be caught off guard from that. I don't think these old towers are ready. I don't
think they're ready at all. I think they've been in denial for a long time.
It's going to hit them like a ton of bricks.
It is.
No pun intended.
It is.
And I don't even know what happens then, because I don't think developers are, they're not going to be able to absorb all these buildings that are going to have to be bought out or redeveloped.
No, and they're not all equally attractive for buyout either. for various reasons. Location, type of building, whatever it is. So some will get saved, but most will not in the short term. I don't know what their solution is.
Yeah, because like I said, these are people on fixed incomes, lower incomes.
Which is why they kept voting to have no reserves, because they don't have any money.
They don't have any money. But it's good because we can't have another Surfside.
No, it was insane that a building fell in the 21st century.
Yeah.
I can't believe watching that. It was just colossal.
Yeah, it's...
And it didn't come out of nowhere. It wasn't like an earthquake hit. They had red flags for 20 years.
Yeah, they had red flags since the building was built.
Yeah, correct. The BBC asked me, I did a lot of press on that after that tragedy, and the BBC, I did a podcast with them, or some type of radio interview with the BBC, and they asked me if I thought it was global warming, if global warming was the reason the building fell.
What?
I was like, what? No, you don't get the global warming pass. And then it came to me, I said it was a trifecta of negligence, incompetence, and corruption.
Yeah.
And I think that played out across many buildings in South Florida.
Yeah, I think it's still playing out. And we see these stories in the news of HOA corruption and whatever.
It's really colossal.
And I don't know. I'm not sure what's going to happen in the next 2 to 3 years with this, but it's going to be a seismic shift. And I'm for it because I think, I've said this before, I'll say it again, I think buildings have expiration dates. I think they have lifespans.
And they're not equal. They weren't all built equally. They weren't all kept up equally. These are all things to consider.
Yeah, and most of these buildings were built in like the cocaine era, like when they were building with toothpicks and
put it up.
Yeah, put it up. And so it's why I have a rule that I won't live in a building that is older than me.
That's a good rule.
I'm a little old now. 36 is old, but basically the rule is more or less like 20, 25 years.
That's a good rule.
I just won't. I refuse. And not that I'm afraid of a Surfside, but I don't know. I don't trust buildings of that age. I just don't.
It's such a Miami statement because other cities around the world are full of older buildings and they're fine. New York, even I lived in Zurich for a bit before here, and a building that's 170 years old there is considered pretty much new. Their Altstadt is 500, 600 years old. In Belgrade, there's tons of pre-war 1913, 15 buildings that are fine. It's just...
I would trust a 100-year-old building more than I would trust a building from the 70s.
Yes, fair. I agree. For sure. I agree. Yeah, I agree.
I think I trust buildings that are really old and that are just built.
Agree. There was this kind of crappy middle ground where I don't know what they were doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, okay, let me rephrase this. I won't basically live in a building that was built before the Florida Building Code went into effect.
Oh.
That's really what it is.
Okay. When was that?
It was after Andrew.
Okay.
But it didn't come into effect until 2000-ish.
Okay. Right. Yeah, Andrew was that big shift in code.
Yeah. So if you guys if you're wondering, we had obviously Andrew in 1996, and that just wrecked Miami-Dade.
Parts of Homestead were just obliterated.
And what they found out is that people were building buildings with toothpicks and chewing gum. One of my dear friends lived in Country Walk, which was the hardest hit.
Okay.
And it was like one of those sort of pop-up developments. It was actually by a subsidiary of Disney, actually. And Andrew came through, and it literally cleared it out. It flattened it. There was nothing left standing.
And those pictures are shocking.
Yeah.
Look at them.
And her whole family survived in their garage. Like they were holding the garage door shut during Andrew because their house was flattened. There's nothing left. But anyways, there was tons of lawsuits, and then the Florida state legislature was like, okay, we have to get this settled statewide. So they made really strict building codes. We have the strictest building codes outside of like earthquake codes in California.
Yep, that's right.
So the long story to say is I trust buildings that were built after that date.
Same. The 1970s, 80s stuff, no thank you.
Yeah, no. I always see them like when I see deals randomly on Zillow or something on Instagram, I look at that, I'm just like, nope, it's not worth it. It gives me and also for me, it's the same reason I can't live on South Beach. Because in order to live in the same kind of apartment that I live in, I'd have to pay probably $5,000-$6,000 a month. What I pay currently, my current building, I would get like an Art Deco building, and I can't do that. The damp and the mold and just like...
The mold is a thing.
Yeah.
It's a thing in the older houses too. Older houses, they're not even cheap, will smell like mold.
Yeah. Like we live in a literal swamp.
Yep, correct.
And you have to have good air conditioning. You have to have everything sealed. If you don't, you are going to for sure get mold.
Yeah, for sure, no question.
And the buildings that are the Art Deco type are going to be moldy unless they've been gutted.
Unless they've been
completely gutted. I've been in some of the older high rises on South Beach, and you can smell the
mold.
dampness.
I know.
Yep.
Yep. It's bad for you.
Extremely. I have 3 air purifiers in my apartment, and I also use like a really high grade furnace filter.
Oh wow, I don't do any of that.
You should.
It's super smart.
Because not only do we have a lot of cars here, we also have cruise ships, and they have the soot and all of that.
That's true.
If you go out on your balcony and just sort of like you'll see the
Yeah.
you'll see it.
Oh.
So I'd recommend it. You can get Costco for a good deal.
He's right.
Going on to a positive thing, this is an interesting story. 6.1 billion in new construction added in Miami-Dade over the past year.
That's amazing.
And they have some interesting stats here. Here are the stats. 2019. Oh, this is the estimated taxable whatever, like
Values,
property
yeah.
values. And in 2024, it's $469 billion.
Wow, that's quite the growth there.
Yep. And then the new construction, 2000,
That's pretty steady.
yeah, since COVID. So
Yep.
COVID we had the most, 7.7 billion, and we've gone up since then to 6.1 billion. So I think that's pretty cool.
Correct. We have a pipeline again.
Yeah.
Most other cities do not. New York does not.
And it's good because we have to remember that Florida doesn't have a state income tax.
That's right.
That is where everything comes from,
Correct.
for better or worse.
Correct.
So it's like we're incentivized to keep building because that is where it all comes from.
The money comes from. Correct.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought that was pretty good. Any other stories that you want to talk
on
about?
this topic of new construction, my friend Kyle Goodman, he runs Market Proof in New York, and he keeps track of all the new construction inventory. It's a great service.
Okay.
We can't really do the same thing in Miami because the data is not public. For example, in New York, you can look at a per unit level of what's selling pre-construction. We can't do that here. It's not disclosed. But anyway, he has this great service where he tracks all this. And I just saw actually today he was on a podcast talking about how New York has had one filing for a project over 100 units the entire year.
What?
Yes. Yes. And he and I, hi Kyle, we're giving him a shout out here. He and I were discussing this when he was in New York. And when he was in Miami, he came, when I gave that talk at Five Park with Russell Galvin, David Martin, all of them, and Jay Parker, he was in the audience. And then he and I had lunch. We hung out. I've known him for a while now. And he was telling me how underappreciated that point is. I think that's what he said. And today I saw he reposted himself talking on someone's podcast saying this again. What he told me a month or so ago is that there was one filing for a structure with more than 100 units. There is no pipeline.
I guess my question is Florida. Does New York just build small stuff?
No,
They don't build any.
just died. This was not always the case, but now there is no pipeline.
It's so weird.
Yes.
I think people think of a place like New York as someone who they just build all the time.
Nope.
They're
New
just
York's
not building.
pipeline is dead.
Huh.
Yep. So imagine 5 years out, there's nothing.
Yeah, because it takes 3 to 4 years
Correct.
to build something.
That's right.
Wow.
Yeah. It's
That's-
amazing.
Listen, I could just throw a stick here and hit 3,000 units under development
Yes.
that are out of the ground and going to be delivering in the next 2 years.
Correct.
Just like I could throw a stick.
Yep. That's exactly right.
That it really only
Yep.
one?
It's in his Instagram right now because he told me this when I saw him in person a month or so ago in Miami, and then I was reminded of it because just today, before I got here, I saw that he posted a story. He was on a podcast, and he said, "Hi, this is Kyle from with Market Proof," and this you're listening to. He's the real talk. He says the issue in Manhattan market is lack of inventory. As we were saying earlier, but even more, there hasn't been a single offering plan with more than 100 units, not one,
That is wild.
in the last year. He said it. Yep.
Wow.
And he keeps track of all this stuff. He's
they're
the expert
screwed.
for New York pre-construction. Not one.
On that note, this is the next Miami, and this is just some of the things. This is 2 PMG projects. They have about 1,400. There's another project in my World Center that's going to have 2,300. Here's your Domus Brickell Park.
Yep.
Gale is opening next week.
It's amazing.
It's just, I know Miami's a bubble, and it happens to me all the time, but I just forget that we actually build things here.
Lots. In New York, nothing. Not one filing.
Huh. I wonder what San Francisco's.
I don't know.
That's probably worse.
How can it be worse than none?
Wow. Okay, I need to think about that some more.
Yeah.
Oh, also, speaking of good news for Miami, let me go over here. This Tri-Rail is doing a one-seat express to downtown Miami.
What does one seat mean?
So right now, Tri-Rail, to get to downtown Miami, you have to transfer in
Oh, I see.
Hialeah.
No transfer. Okay.
Yes, but they're just trying it out like in a sort of basic way. It's only going to be one train in each direction each day, but if it works, they'll expand
That's
it.
awesome.
The reason they're doing this is because Brightline recently got rid of their commuter passes because they are at capacity.
Okay.
Which is both a good thing and a bad thing, because obviously it's not great for commuters who have relied on it, but it also means there is tremendous demand for Brightline service.
Right.
And Brightline's always has stated that their service is for, they want to make the money on the long distance from Miami to Orlando and eventually to Tampa. The commuter part was just, they don't really care about it because it doesn't make them any money. But this is good because Tri-Rail's stepping up and they're going to try and do this. I think it's going to be successful. When I lived in San Francisco, has a version of Tri-Rail called Caltrain, and it runs up the peninsula. And they do this. They're called mini bullet trains, and they go from San Francisco down to wherever they end up, San Jose down there, and they just do like minimal stops. Because Tri-Rail has a lot of stops, and it takes about 2 hours plus to go from Miami to West Palm Beach on Tri-Rail. This will cut that down by about 45 minutes.
Oh, wow.
So they'll stop in like Miami, the airport station, Boca Raton, and West Palm Beach, I think.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I really like that a lot. Pecan Transportation, this is interesting. Amazon is going to test their self-driving cars.
I love that.
Yeah. I always say, if they can test the self-driving cars here and they work, they'll work anywhere.
Correct. If they can handle the driving here,
they can handle the driving.
The algorithm will be like, easy.
Yeah. If they can do it here with the weather and the drivers and our terrible roads, then they can do it anywhere. Oh, awesome. Also, other interesting news. This is, we're going a little,
I thought this was a joke when I first.
I think Hugo posted it, or not Hugo. I think his name was Hector.
I don't know, but I really thought it was a joke.
And I saw it and I was like, what? Like,
who are they targeting with this? This is where I'm confused. Female buyers?
Yeah, I was like, who is going to buy this? Like, the project looks
fine.
nice.
They all look nice, but you're gonna tell a straight guy to go buy at L residences?
Oh, yeah, I can't see it.
I'm confused by this.
Like,
I don't see straight men buying here.
Yeah, I don't either. It's like, oh, I live at L.
They don't want the straight male buyer. I don't know what their plan is.
What are the community events going to be, like fashion shows?
That's what I'm saying. I don't.
How to makeup?
Or some guy might think that a whole bunch of young, starving female models will live there, and he'll be smart and buy a condo there.
And it's been a weird location, too. So this is 195, and this is Blue on the Bay, which is like the last skyscraper on the row. And it's like in this little weird little...
I would have loved to know the logic behind this name and who thought of it.
I think they threw a thing at a dartboard that had brand names on it.
Yeah.
And it was L.
Next one's going to be like Teen Vogue.
Yeah, Teen Vogue. Exactly. Yeah, I don't know. I think this branding thing is starting to get a little...
They're grasping at straws here.
Literally. I don't know. There was another one... Oh, this is not branded, but this is cool. This is it's a street from Midtown. E6, or it's called Tower 91. I don't know if that's his final name, but multifamily. It's gonna be like right across the street from that blank space in Midtown. It's nice.
Okay, yeah.
I've said this before, but there is so much happening in development in Miami that I struggle to keep up with it.
It's so much all the time. Correct.
I send things to you all the time on WhatsApp, and I'm like, did I somehow miss this? Like,
correct.
There's
tons.
There's so much happening.
Which is good. It's super good.
It is good. And I think even with interest rates and the economy slowing or whatever, the fact that people are still breaking ground and building things is... Miami did not used to be this resilient.
No.
From everything that I know.
No.
Like, the last crash was probably the worst in the country here.
Yeah.
Maybe besides Vegas and Miami both. But it didn't used to be this good.
Also, what we had here was that spike that we had post-COVID or in the immediate aftermath of COVID. That was driven by the domestic buyer. The international buyer, the Latin Americans, didn't come here. We know this from airport traffic. They couldn't come because of COVID. And so I said this back then, is that, guys, like this surge that we're getting, it's in the absence of the Latin American buyer. The Latin American buyer didn't go away forever. They just physically could not come because of COVID. They will be back.
Got it.
And so we have this domestic demand that is still there, which is new, which is going to be next 5-10 years, the shift in our nation. And now the Latin American buyer is coming back like they always do because now they're coming here again. So it's like we have two forces of demand.
Okay. Interesting.
Which might be adding to the resiliency.
Yeah. I think we're more resilient than people are giving us credit for.
It's not a one-trick pony anymore.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're not just tourism and vacations.
Yeah, we're not just selling condos to Venezuelans.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I said this before in the last podcast, the rate of people moving here after COVID was never going to continue to go up in a straight line. It was going to plateau and normalize. I think a lot of people in the press are writing negative stories stuff. They're just seeing the normalization of it at a new level.
Correct.
And they're seeing that as bad. Okay, this is bad. No, it's not bad. It's just normalizing at a new level.
Correct. Things happen in any market.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've seen the number. We put the numbers out here. The 900% increase. The
It's crazy.
$6 billion in new construction.
It's sour grapes from some of the press, too, which is the point I've been making. It is sour grapes.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, how dare they prosper? They were doing bad things. It's true. They wanted to see us suffer in some capacity, and we're not.
I think people still don't understand that Miami could be more successful other than just vacation. That's in their brain
resists it.
They resist it. Like it can only be a fun in the sun, drugs and clubs and bottle service.
Nope, exactly. Oh, who was that famous YouTuber? You sent me his thing. Xiao XIAO Man NYC or something. He has lots and lots of followers.
Yeah.
I'd not seen him before. I'm not really on YouTube that much. But anyways, so he made a video saying that he's lived in New York City for 22 years of his 32-year-old life or something like this, and he's leaving. And that when we saw that video, when Ryan sent it to me, it was just posted, already had almost 2 million views.
I think he moved to like New Jersey, though.
Yeah, no, that was his whole point, was that he didn't move for climate or for taxes, which is what Ken Griffin was saying, too, that it wasn't taxes. The tax situation never changed, so we can't attribute the taxes to the spike in migration because that condition remained the same. So it's what changed. And he was like, that's it. He goes, how they spend my money is ridiculous. The subway's basically a scene of terror. My quality of life is deteriorating. We don't have any program for kids pre-K. They promised them pre-K program he mentioned years ago. I don't know what it was. It never happened. He's a 3-year-old, so I guess he kept up with it. He was saying, meanwhile, they're giving debit cards to migrants. And he goes, listen, I'm all for immigration, but that's my tax money, and we don't have a kids pre-K program. So he's just pissed, as many people are. And he left. As the taxpayers are leaving.
Yeah. This is random, but I was watching a show on Netflix last week. It was called Eric.
Okay.
And it had the guy from Sherlock in it, Cumberbatch dude. Anyways, it was based in New York in the early 80s.
Okay, fun.
And it was very...
when they had streetwalkers.
Well, yeah, that was the point. It was very... I assume it was very realistic. It felt realistic. Mm-hmm. And the funny thing is a lot of the stuff that I saw there portrayed was a lot of things that I see now happening in real life in New York. And San Francisco, Portland, and Los Angeles.
100%.
And I feel like large superstar cities like New York and LA, they did like this 20, 30-year like trip back to the same place.
Yep.
That's how I feel.
Yep.
I don't have the hard data proof, but just from the visuals and having like a balanced look on it, that's how it feels.
Yeah. Actually, in part of his video, he was talking about how not infrequently he has a kid, like a 3-year-old kid in a stroller, and he has to cross the street because in broad daylight he has a half-naked man in the street shouting obscenities and punching the air. I'm done. He goes, his wife won't walk on the street at night with the kid.
Yeah. Speaking to tie that into Miami thing, I saw that Miami, as far as I know, I had to learn this. We have functional veteran zero homeless. They are trying to get to functional zero homeless in general. Mm-hmm. We have very few homeless in Miami. And I just think we take for granted. We have it. We have homeless. We have transients and unhoused. But just the sheer number of them compared to any other place is so far below.
Agree.
One other story I wanted to touch on that I just saw you might have some insights on. The South Florida condo demand surging. They're turning multifamily developers' projects into condos.
Mm-hmm.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Oh, there are multiple examples of this. The project is initially conceived as being a multifamily for rental project. That's how it pencils out the best for them. Mm-hmm. And then as they get in some phase of planning or financing, whatever it is, they realize that, oh, wait, people are still buying condos and perhaps we can get more money. And then they convert. Even Five Park and the Beach did this, by the way.
It was going to be...
the bottom half. So the building has 2 distinct floor plates. If you look at the building, it has almost this divider in the middle. That's a private club floor. The top half of the building is 1 floor plate. That was always condos, and it's all at first. The bottom half of the building was supposed to be rentals. And then they changed it.
Interesting. We have a great example of this with the PMG Society and now the Esler, whatever it is.
Elser, yeah.
Elser. It was going to be Society. It was going to be high-end multifamily. But what they said is they had buyers ready to go with checkbooks open and had nothing to sell them. So they were like...
Let's change it.
They were like, let's change it and get free money right now.
Exactly.
It's interesting, but I do think it's interesting, and I think it's fine. There are We have plenty of multifamily coming online in Wynwood, and I don't think in the direct core it doesn't have to be multifamily all the time.
Is what, sorry?
In the direct core, I don't think it has to be multifamily all the time.
Yep.
Condos are fine.
Yep, completely fine.
And it's interesting. I was having a conversation with someone this week who they were lamenting about how Miami-Dade's only building ultra luxury stuff for billionaires. And I sat there and I explained to them. I said, "Listen," and I said this before, so if I'm boring you guys, I'm sorry. But I was like, you have to build every single level of housing, from the ultra luxury from billionaires to Section 8. It's like a ladder. If you start up here and if you cut any part of it, the rest falls.
Yep.
They're not separate. They're not hung on the wall separately. They're all on the wall together. If you cut any part of it, it falls.
Agree.
And it falls down. If I am upper middle class and I want to go for a nice condo, there's nothing available there, I'm going to go down one level to a mid-range condo. I'm going to push that buyer to the next level down.
Yep. It's all connected.
It's all connected.
And we do build the whole range.
Yeah.
Yeah. No one's really building Section 8, but it's there, though.
Yeah, maybe Section 8 is the wrong term. It's just like
No, I know what you're saying.
affordable. Actually
yeah.
affordable that's government subsidized.
Yep.
That is what I was trying to say. I want to do one thing new here. I would like to say, if you had some predictions to make over the next 2 years
Oh, my.
for my real estate development, what would they be?
For development? How do you mean?
Just like in general. Like Miami predictions, like Anna's predictions for the next 2 years.
Oh, so my predictions the next 2 years is that baseline, the wealth and talent migration is continuing, and that's what's driving everything we see around us. So I don't see that changing at all.
Okay.
I see our feeder jurisdictions continuing to increase their hostilities towards capital through ridiculous policies that make quality of life continue to deteriorate. So I think we're going to keep getting people with money from these cities that had their heyday in the 20th century. So that's not going to change, and I think that flow of people here is going to keep the flow of business coming. I think that, like, county level, like I said, we hit an all-time high for single-family home pricing. I think the single-family home market will continue. I don't want to use the word outperform because they're different markets because we're adding inventory on the condo or multifamily side. But I think the single-family home market will continue to really tighten over the next few years because, again, we can't add more vertically. Okay. And as people keep coming, that land supply is just so scarce and valuable. So I see that happening. I see old houses continue to get replaced by new houses. And I see us continuing to have a very active pipeline, with prices stabilizing across the board in the condo space.
Okay, cool. My predictions for the next couple years are that we are going to finally see large tech companies take meaningful positions in Miami. Like Apple took 50,000 square feet in Coral Gables. I think we're finally going to see a break because it's going to take one or two of them to be here and be successful for the dam to break. We have Microsoft moving into Brickell, but I think you're going to see a large tech company. I don't have any knowledge of this. I think you're going to have a tech company either relocate from a high tax jurisdiction to Florida, Miami.
Agree.
I don't know if it's whoever it may be, but
we're still waiting for Elon.
Yeah, still waiting for Elon. We need that drama. But that's my prediction for that. And then I think in the next year and a half, we may actually see rents dramatically decrease because there are so many projects in the progress that the market will not be able to absorb them all.
I agree with you on the rental market.
And that's fine. That's great.
It's a great thing.
It's a great thing, but I think you're going to see people have really good incentives to rent. I think it's actually going to drive rents down. Is it ever going to go back to pre-2000 to 2020? No.
No.
But it's going to come off of its absolutely insane highs.
Agree, and that's a great thing.
And I'm fine with that. And then I think also you're going to see just the continued absolute explosion of live local projects because once a couple of them get out of the ground and are successful, every developer and their mother is going to build it. I think they're going to start racing because I don't think the Live Local Act as it's structured isn't going to last forever. I think when we get a new governor or a new legislature, which is coming up soon, I think there might be changes. So I think developers are going to rush to get in the ground, in the dirt, to build as quickly as they can.
Agree.
Those are my predictions for the next couple of years.
I agree. And it's all going to feed into the ongoing domestic migration. Yeah. Because it's that entrepreneurship flowing to the path of least resistance, and we're one of them.
I do have one prediction that doesn't relate to Florida, but I wanted to say it. Completely random, but I've been thinking about it recently. I think in the next 2 to 3 years, a developing nation, probably in the global south, is going to give whatever AI company, whatever tech company is hot at the moment, they're going to offer them basically to privatize almost like a country. Or not privatize, but give them a huge amount of land, a huge amount of leeway to say, we'll give you all this, bring your company, your people here to this developing nation, and we'll just let you be alone.
Have a fiefdom. Yes,
have a fiefdom. I know it's a completely random prediction, but I've been thinking about it because someone like OpenAI or whoever comes next, it's going to reach a point where the government is going to say, you can't do this anymore.
And some developing nation
can say, you can come here
and
do this.
Do it here.
You can come do it here.
Like Iceland.
Somewhere random that is probably doesn't have an extradition treaty with the United States. Say you come here, bring your trillions of dollars. We'll give you this half of the island, or whatever, and you just do your stuff. That is my prediction for the worldwide.
I like that prediction.
I'm not sure I like it for the United States, but I just don't see the United States government, no matter who wins, whomever wins the election, it doesn't matter. I don't see them allowing a company like OpenAI just have runaway success with no legislation and no controls.
You could be right.
So
that would be very interesting.
I don't know. That's how I feel about it.
I love this. Ryan's prediction. We have it here on record. I love it.
Yeah, not really to relate to Miami, but.
And we'll get Elon here and have him do jujitsu. That's my other prediction.
You just need to send him some of your videos and photos.
My cage fight.
You should start tagging him. You should start tagging him in your stuff.
You can say, jiu-jitsu, forget Zuckerberg, let's go, I have a challenge.
Although, you might be careful, you might end up wife number like...
50?
Whatever, how many...
Yeah, no.
Like
but that's like...
15 children by now? I don't know, whatever. Anyway,
we digress.
We digress. But guys, thanks for listening, and we will see you again in 2 weeks.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye, guys.